back.
The Hermit. This is a humanoid creature of unknown origin that lives in a shack that it carries around on its own back. That's pretty cool. The shack is made of an unknown material, but it resembles tin as we know it. When the Hermit deploys this shack, a front yard type thing appears in front of it, and this yard has sticks and pikes with heads of other entities on them, such as heads of skin stealers, hounds, a large intestine of a human, interesting, and the head of a strangler, also the eyeball of a smiler, and an unknown snake entity with purple scales. Despite the Hermit's appearance, he is actually very hospitable, even though he resembles what we would call a plague doctor. His accent is a manly, slightly Irish accent, and he enjoys lengthy, deep conversations, especially deep conversations about his food and the food he likes to prepare. The Hermit is known to be a cunning warrior and a skilled hunter, and has been witnessed using crossbows and bone saws and bear traps. And he seems like a pretty wholesome guy, just a lone wolf who hunts for sport and offers tea to random people. I mean, how can you hate him? Next entity is called the Numbed Man. This creature is said to know as much about you as you know about it. So if you don't know anything about it, it won't know anything about you. But since I just told you his name, he knows yours. Sorry, this guy physically is a vague humanoid shape and is actually really weak and feeble. And you can kill it easily, apparently, because the creature has removed all of his senses. He tore out his eyes, he mangled his nose, burst his own eardrums, and burned off all of his skin. So he has no way of sensing anyone nearby, which means they can't sense him either, and this keeps him safe. This guy's crazy, though. He isn't contained to any certain level of the Backrooms and has no physical barriers, so you can't just run away from him. And every noise you make draws him closer somehow. But the wiki says to, quote, remember, he's weak, so you can defeat him with the right attack. Gee, thanks for that advice. Next is a creature called Puffers. These are grotesquely skinny humanoids with gray skin. They walk on all fours because their joints are so fragile that they can't stand up. Nice. That's nasty. There are two big tubes that come out of their back that point straight up into the air, and they emit a strange white gas that hasn't been studied deeply. The gas is incredibly dangerous and can cause death anywhere from instantly to 2 weeks to 3 months after exposure. These creatures are relatively docile, though, and will not typically attack. If you do encounter one, though, act as intimidating as possible, and the puffer will run off. However, if you're exposed to the gas, then quarantine yourself, and yeah, you're probably dead. So that's cool. Next is a really creepy one called the Wallpaper Wraith. These are giant slugs that are located on level 13 and level 33 of the Backrooms, and they stick to walls and the ceilings by using a thick red substance they emit. They're able to camouflage themselves into any color or pattern of the ceiling while they're stalking their prey. They hunt by slowly sneaking up on their prey from above, and they open their mouths and sling their tendril-like tongue around the prey's neck. Wraith's tongues are extremely strong and can break a human's neck instantly. Also, good luck fighting back with these creatures too, because if they get injured, they spray a black liquid that freezes you in your tracks, making you an easy kill. Nice. The only weakness known to the Wraiths is their sensitivity to sound. In fact, the best and almost only way to kill them is by screaming as loud as you can when you're near. This will instantly kill them because it'll literally blow their head up. So also make sure to check the ceilings ahead of you before you walk under them, just to make sure you're not getting snuck up on. Next up we have doll faces. This is an interesting creature found on several levels in the Backrooms, but most common on level 0. They are physically described as a cloth plushie doll similar to the Raggedy Ann dolls of the real world. They're very dangerous until tamed, specifically if they're in a pack. Doll faces will roam around until they see a wanderer or an explorer, and then they will approach it and say something along the lines of, quote, hi, I'm Dollface. It's nice to meet you. After this, the Dollface might attack you, or it'll just stand there. However, normally they just run away if they're alone. The only exception is if there's a group of Dollfaces. If there is, then once one introduces itself to you, the rest will attack. However, if you just want to tame a Dollface, offer it almond water and act nice to it, and they'll start following you around. Nice, a humanoid sentinel ragdoll who hunts in packs. I love it. We have Wretches. These are another zombie humanoid creature that were apparently once human, but due to lack of food, water, and sleep, mutated into these wretches. The process of changing into a wretch is called the wretched cycle. This process can be slowed, but never stopped. The only way to slow it is to provide proper food, water, and rest, but like I just said, you cannot stop the cycle. So once you get it, you're toast. A wretch's behavior has been documented as somewhat intelligent, but somewhat hive mind-like. In rare cases, they're known to craft and to wield weapons, but the majority act in a sort of hive mind sense. They have superhuman strength and are typically fast on their feet. However, some are slow and just meander around like zombies. In order to avoid the wretched cycle, which you should do at all costs, you have to stay rested and well hydrated, and never, under any circumstance, attempt to save a wretch that is on stage 3 of the wretched cycle, because there's no hope for him then. Next up is the memory worm, which is a giant larva lamprey type creature that has a mouthful of teeth. This creature also has metaphysical abilities, meaning it can change your perception of space and time or your reality, kind of like the reality stone from the Avengers. The memory worm has an unknown origin and has an undocumented habitat because they seem to appear at random. The outer layer of its skin is thick and coarse, and its teeth are lined up in a spiral pattern all the way down its throat into its body, and it has no visible eyes. However, once it eats its prey, it will, quote, birth whatever's left of its prey, and evidently the birth remains can become an entire new entity that has metaphysical powers, and there are only 3 types of new entities that are created when the memory worm gives birth. Those are wormlings, memory facelings, and the splat. Nice. We got a giant worm that can control reality. Totally not disconcerting at all. Stranglers. These are creatures who live on level 58.1 and hide in dark areas until the hunt. They're a bipedal furry creature with large beaks, and their hands are like a snake that can coil around the victim's neck. That's the name, Stranglers. Their feet are similar in shape to hooves, but they're like really spongy, so they make as little noise as possible when on the hunt. They walk in a hunched over position, but are still around 8 foot tall, and they only hunt during the blackouts when all the lights go off on level 58.1. When they're on the hunt, they silently sulk around in the darkness to find prey. When they find a victim, obviously they strangle it and then proceed to eat it. When the lights are turned back on, they immediately run back to the dark spot they left, and interestingly, Stranglers can't stand loud noises, and it's said to make as much loud noise as you can when you're on level 58.1, so they won't come near you. So if you're in a blackout on level 58.1, make as much loud noise as you can to deter them.